Hi everyone, my name is Abby Lass and welcome to Controversy Monday. With me I have Senior Aliel and Junior Rebecca, and today we're going to be discussing the following question. If you fit the criteria for a label with which you do not personally identify, do you still count as a member of that movement? Would either of you like to start?
Sure. I would personally disagree with that because I think it's so easy to be put into a box, and just by doing that, like, initially you feel like limited. And I'm just thinking of like at like a race point of view when we just read, what's the book?
Guys Watching God?
No, the one about American Born Chinese.
Okay.
And I think he feels like he wants to kind of like let go of his like Chinese heritage and stuff. And in the end he kind of like learns to like accept it and stuff. But I think initially it's like you're put into a box and you feel like limited that way, you know?
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, when we, like, the example that you gave us was, like, being, saying that you agree with, like, equal rights, but you don't call yourself a feminist. I mean, I see that a lot of people do that, and I think the biggest influence is, like, how people behave to feminism in the internet. And, like, I think people do want to call themselves feminists, but they're just, like, afraid of everything that can come with that. Like, just being called, oh, no, you're just, like, a feminazi or something like that. And even though that's not an actual word. But I think it's just, like, people are afraid of what the consequences can be for you to label yourself. And at the same time, I agree with you that you can get limited. I mean, we all have different opinions in so many different things. Like, of course, you can, identify with that group, but you don't necessarily need to, like, call yourself that if you don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to like see somebody that says they're, they agree with equal rights and all of that, and not be like, so why are you sort of not getting into the movement? Like, what's holding you back? So I think it's more like a personal thing. I mean, if you don't want to be labeled, you don't have to, but I think either way, people are going to do that for you.
So do you think the hesitation that people have with being labeled comes less from the label itself and more people's reaction to the label?
Yeah, I do think that.
Yeah.
I mean, usually when you're in a movement, there's always going to be someone that agrees with you and disagrees with it. And, I mean, some people just don't want to deal with that. Just, like, having to actually say, okay, I'm for, like, equal rights and stuff. But then if you call yourself a feminist, people can come and say to you, okay, but what do you think about these people that are saying this specific things? And you just don't want to discuss that. You're just like, oh, I just want everybody to be equal, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be, joining all these, I don't know, movements and stuff like that. Like, some people go, people are, like, on the street, and they're just, like...
Protests?
Yeah, protests and stuff like that. And, people sort of, like, oh, if you're a feminist and you're into that, all of that stuff, why aren't you there? Like, why aren't you doing anything? So I think people are just, like, afraid of, being put in that place where they don't feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. I think it also has to do with, like, what people are going to think of them. I think sometimes being a feminist has a negative connotation. So if you say, I just want equal rights, but I'm not a feminist, like, you're kind of taking away, like you're, like, saying, I want the good part of being a feminist, but then, like, don't label me as a feminist because I don't want people to think of me differently that way. Like, think of me negatively.
That makes sense.
So.
Yeah, I think it was Aziz Ansari. He had a quote, and he was saying, like, if you're a doctor of teeth, you are a dentist. If you believe in equal rights, you are a feminist. You can't call it anything else. So I think it does get difficult. But then you brought up the example of race, and I think that's kind of a murkier issue because I know we read Their Eyes Were Watching God, and in it the main character, Janie, she's only 1/4 black, but she is entirely, like, part of the African-American community, and she's considered one of them. So, like, where do you think on that spectrum maybe it's self-determination versus appearance versus who you just choose to associate with?
Yeah, I think it gets really messy there, just because it's like, I think, like, especially with, like, being, like, black or white, it's kind of like, I don't know, like, it's very, like, easy to differentiate the two, and I think that just like, it's like you have grown up in, like, a different way, like, now, like, your heritage is different, and a lot of people are proud of their heritage because it's such a big part of who they are, you know? So I think people are much more gonna associate themselves with, you know, how they look and, like, the people who, like, they grew up with, rather, when it talks about race, but, like, with, like, being a feminist, it's, like, that's kind of your own personal thing. It's not really, it doesn't have anything to do with, like, your family and your generations.
That makes sense. But so then, were you, it's like, I don't want to make assumptions, have you ever lived in Brazil in your life? Or?
Oh, yeah, I lived in Brazil for 16 years.
Oh, okay.
And I've been here for, like, only 8 months now.
Okay. Oh. So then, do you consider yourself an American?
No, yeah, I definitely don't consider myself an American at all. Like, I know that I'm Brazilian. I'm really proud to be Brazilian. And I think it's really interesting that you guys brought the whole race thing, because that's exactly where I'm fit right now. Because, like, in Brazil, there's, like, a word for people like me. I'm not, like, black, but I'm not white. Like, I'm in the middle. And, like, when I came here, I saw that a lot of people were trying to put me in one of those places, and I didn't really fit. So it's, like, it's really uncomfortable, you know? You don't feel like you belong somewhere. You're just, like, in the middle, so you don't really know, oh, how am I, like, being from another country and not having English as your first language, you don't know, how am I supposed to talk to people? Is it going to be offensive if I talk this way? Is it not going to be offensive? Like, what is this going to be like? You know, so it's, like, the whole label thing can be very uncomfortable. You don't really know how to call yourself, and all you're searching for is really to identify with something. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I really don't understand about America, to be honest. Like, how I see that people here have this need to put people into places. Like, when, for me, it's really weird to see, you know, in the 6000s, we have, like, a board where it's written, like, students of color. And for me, like, if I feel sort of offended by that, like, what's the difference is there? I mean, of course, there's, like, a social thing going on because of history and all of that, but still, it's like, in Brazil, of course, there's racism in Brazil, but it's in a totally different way. I mean, it's really, really hard for me to understand how Americans do the whole, Native American, or African American, or Chinese American, or whatever. Like, no, you were born here. Like, if you follow the culture, if you're, like, from here, like, why can't you just call yourself an American? Why did the white people that came here in the first place are only called American? Why aren't they, like, European American or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
That's something that has been really hard for me to understand. I mean, taking history classes, you can sort of figure that out, but it's, I think it's more something, putting more labels just draws us apart as human beings than to just, like, you know, you can know me as a Leo, I know you as Abby. We don't need to put color in the middle of this, you know? We're just people, we're equal, and, you know, I think that's how things were supposed to be. So, like, even though I don't fit into a label, I just can, like, sort of figure what I want to be part of.
That makes sense. And so you brought up the question of culture, and so, like, obviously, like, you knew, like, all the David Bowie music we're singing in chorus, like, you obviously, like, are well-versed in American culture. Do you think that even if, because I remember, I'm totally forgetting the woman's name, the woman who decided that she was African-American and was involved in the NAACP, but that she wasn't.
I don't know her name.
I'm forgetting her name, but, like, she was kind of very submerged in that culture, and so she definitely felt like she, like, related to it. And so do you think that, like, regardless of your heritage, the culture that you choose to kind of envelop yourself with is the determining factor, would you say?
I think race that's what makes it so messy, because, I mean, personally, I think there's still that separation between black and white. And and I think here at South, we're really trying to, like, stop, like, we're trying to, like, end that kind of segregation, but it's still going to be there. And I think it has to do with, like, the color of someone's skin, because, like, Miss Sumner's office is now, like, the place where, like, black people hang out, and it was just kind of like it just kind of evolved as that. And I find it really interesting that, like, Miss Sumner didn't do anything about it, it just kind of happened. And our school's, like, integrated, and I don't feel uncomfortable going in there, but I do think that there is kind of that unwritten rule that, like, that's where they hang out, you know? And I think it's a problem. I was actually talking to Mr. Banks about this. I think the thing that's going to, like, help it is just, like, over time, it's just going to kind of integrate itself. But I still think that there's, like, you said that, like, why is there, like, African American and, like, Latin American and stuff? Why can't it just be American? I think that's a really good question, and I think it's just how people were brought up and, like, the people they hung out with and the people they're friends with and stuff. They're comfortable with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's American culture.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying, like, oh, this is super wrong, but it's, like, it's right. You know, how people are used to doing things.
Exactly.
But, like, I think it's really important to, like, bring other perspectives from people from different places so you can actually see, oh, yeah, I've never really thought about that, and really getting to know, like, different point of views and things. So, like, I don't know, maybe other people feel uncomfortable with it, just like I do.
Yeah.
And it's, like, a normal thing, I guess. Nobody really wants to be that much labeled, right? I mean, sometimes people don't really care, but... And I think also with the whole globalization thing happening right now, I mean, I'm Brazilian and I'm living in the United States here, and I don't know, maybe I'll stay and have kids or whatever. And, like, it's going to be harder and harder to really put, like, lines on those things, like race, culture, you know, what you identify with or not. I think it's, like, a really, really personal matter. I mean, what kind of life did you have? What kind of people did you know, hanged out with? How's your family like? And, you know, just your story in general. I think people will try to label you, but at the same time, like, at the end of it, you're the one who's gonna actually, you know, say what you actually identify with. So I think it's, like, a really, really personal matter, other than just, like, sort of a society kind of thing. You know, I don't think we can help the labels, but it's just something that happens. But I think it's important to know what we identify with. And, like, if someone is trying to tell you, oh, no, but if you believe in that, you're actually that, you can just say, like, yeah, I agree with that, or no, I don't feel comfortable going that way, or, yeah, I'm fine with it, and that's what I believe in. You know, I think people shouldn't be afraid of really expressing their opinions on so many different matters. And, you know, I think we should be proud of where we're from, our heritage, and our culture in general. So I think it's just, like, more personal, you know.
Makes sense. All right, well, it looks like we're out of time, but thank you both so much. That was really great conversation. Be sure to take the poll attached and tune in next week for a whole new debate. Thanks.